Why didn't anybody tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me that the Prophet went through this as well? Why did us as this generation of lost kids go through all this pain and this loneliness and these wars and this violence? Why didn't they tell us that our Prophet felt this way too?
From even looking at your work, language is obviously very important as a poet. And then like relating it back to cultural misfits, language is such a huge struggle. Like, you know, sometimes your dad says something that you may not understand, or you're in the markets in Syria and you're like, what is going on? I don't understand the jokes. It's not funny. Everyone's laughing. I'm clearly, what, do I not have a sense of humor? Like, it's that kind of different languages, Arabic, English. And then I was listening to one of your talks and you were talking about sadness and empathy as its own language, and tears as its own language. Like, this is a universal language of emotions. And honestly, half the things that you say, I'm like, mind blown. But it made me kind of wonder, when did you start acknowledging sadness and emotions as their own universal language? And how did that shift your perspective, acceptance of others, and your own craft?
I've had a relationship with sadness for a long time. The first time I remember being sad, I was 3 years old. It's one of my oldest memories, and I distinctly remember sadness. I don't remember much of the context, but I remember the emotion, and I don't know if you guys have these days where you're just in that mood, and then you like see someone and you just like imagine all their pain, and then you become sad for them, just some stranger on the bus or on the airplane. And I'm very sensitive to the sadness of others. Growing up and seeing the sadness of the adults around me, that was a big thing. Seeing, my mother sad sometimes, seeing like even just like the weeping of Palestinian mothers on television, like having knowledge of sadness as a child through the lens of an adult, it was very heavy on the heart. And I think it took a long time to understand exactly what my work was doing as a poet. I was writing and I was speaking my truth and telling my story and stuff, but I didn't know exactly what it was doing until I realized that when you hear a sad story, even if you are a stranger, our tears weigh the same. They are collective, and this is the unity of that. Because when I would talk, I could talk about the celebrations and all the delicious meals we have and how fun and the laughter and this and that and the jokes that I might get that no one else would get. But when you tell a sad story, everyone in the room is going to be quiet. You walk into a room where people are mourning, you are going to know that they are mourning. And I I think I was honestly probably maybe between 16 and 20. I think that was the period. That's when I started traveling. That's when I started meeting people. That's when I started kind of like really, really going inward into my own heart. And sadness, it expands your heart and makes it bigger. And I'm going to go back again to the faith. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he had a year of sadness. When I learned that he had the year of sadness, I went to a private Islamic school growing up. And I'm like 19 years old in my car in the mountains in a moment of crisis, listening to this lecture about the year of sadness. And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me that the Prophet went through this as well? Why did us as this generation of lost kids go through all this pain and this loneliness and these wars and this violence? Why didn't they tell us that our Prophet felt this way too? And it was like, it was so heavy. It was so heavy to know that the man who gave me some sense of belonging in this hopeless world, that he felt this pain too. And he was an orphan and he had no one. And I remember that was like the moment where I was like, oh my God, sadness was his superpower. Sadness was the thing that made him humanity's prophet. Jesus had his people, Nuh had his people, but Rasulullah, He's the last prophet, and he knew sadness deeper than anyone. It wasn't just his honesty. And I think that that is, it was like 19 when I was finally like, oh my God, like, why didn't they tell us? That's the moment where sadness became the language that I preferred. And it's the moment where I wasn't running away from it anymore.
That's beautiful.
Oh my God.
Emma, I feel like we've made this. I feel like I'm crying. You're crying. God's crying. I feel like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What have you done?
But honestly, Emma, that is so beautiful because we're like society for so long has told us like not to be sad. If someone's sad, the easiest thing to tell them is don't be sad. Don't be sad, it's fine. Um, so to know that Sayyidina Muhammad did go through sadness and like we're allowed to go through sadness because if the ideal person went through that, then how are we not going through that?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's just amazing and beautiful.
I heard this story. It's in the Islamic tradition that there is only one time that the angels will not write down the deed of a person, the good deed of a person. And when Rasulullah heard this, he's like, why? Like it's why would the angels not write down a good deed? And it is when the Muslim cries, and it is because the weight of the tears are so heavy that the ink inside of their pen does not have the capacity to write what it means. This is like the shame we put into sadness is so toxic. And it's like this is where all our mental health issues start. I think it starts from when we demonize sadness, which is the emotion that should lead us back to our Lord. That emptiness, it makes your heart bigger. Nothing, joy will not make your heart bigger. You can go out, you can party in Dubai, you could party in Los Angeles, you could have the time of your life. Your heart will not be bigger by the end of it. You might have some great fun memories, but your heart, sadness is the only thing that can do that. Anger can't do it. Fear can't do it. Only sadness can, I think.
And do you say that because it makes you understand? Because sadness is the root of understanding. Is that what you mean?
Wow. I think so. I think it's the place of common ground. It's how you can get a Trump supporter who knows sadness. Everyone knows sadness. Everyone, no matter how evil they are, they know sadness. It's how you can get some violent, ex-Trump supporting soldier to cry for a Syrian child who was starving in Madaya. That is the connection. It's going to be on those pathways of sadness, that pathways of pain, because it will tug at the heart. And that unity is powerful. And I think we should connect more on our sad stories. I love good stories. I do. We need them. But I have come to learn that when the brother Ali said it. He's this albino hip hop artist. He's a Muslim guy who was like 17 when he converted, single father raising his child. There's a story where he's like in a bathroom stall at the subway. Someone's trying to get in, And he says, "Can you tell me what language do you laugh in? The human reaction is smiles and cries. What language are the tears when they're falling from your eyes?" And it's so true. It's so unifying.
It is. It's such a beautiful language when you put it that way. Like I honestly had never thought of it as a language before. Like I always thought of art as a language, um, music as a language, even music without words. But emotions as a language is something that you completely opened my mind to. So thank you for that, honestly.